Hi everyone, welcome. Sometimes I write these green boards just to have sort of a little bit of like a teleprompter off on the side, out off screen, just for me to be able to read and give you guys info. Other times I try to present it in such a way that it's neat and tidy and easy to read. And this thing originally started out as kind of sloppy, not intended to be put on the screen, but then I figured, it ain't that bad. So the mixed red worms have been in this tub over here for 165 days now, doing a really good job. We created an unusual environment for them because I had a whole bunch of twine. I still have a whole bunch of twine, and I took this combination of twine, various sizes, thick and thin, and that's what we made their environment out of. So these guys have been living in twine now all this time, and it's been 13 times that we've fed them, and I want to come in here with feeding number 14. It's going to consist of some radish leaves, some carrots, and some coffee. And a couple check-ins ago, I made myself this nifty little reminder of where we last placed the supplementary feedings, because usually I just place one feeding down the middle. But in this system, it wasn't expected to be easy to excavate a spot into which feedings can go. So in the very beginning, we sort of pushed and pulled the twine rope aside to make sure we had ourselves a nice opening down the middle into which we could always submerge all the feedings. And then it started to seem to me like, well, if I want the worms to really work all the material in the system, I don't want to be corralling them into one central feeding spot over and over again all the time. I'd really like them to be all over the place, working all the bedding down and hopefully eventually getting the twine that makes up the system broken down. And it was funny because in the beginning I would just grab a section of the system here. I would just run my fingers down, grab a good handful of this stuff, and all the string was intertwined so much that I could just almost pull the entire bed out as like a sponge. It almost felt like a big sponge. But you know what we did last check-in? We were actually able to grab individual handfuls of stuff. And I mean, okay, granted, some strings are going to be kind of embedded in others and have to be pulled out gradually, but it does feel to me like perhaps a lot of the smaller sized twine that was sort of serving as the glue that was holding everything together might have started breaking down, or might have already broken down, making all the big pieces much looser, freer to move. So I'm just kind of kicking around theories on what might be happening after 165 days. Who knows? It's not too unusual to expect that after that much time, certain thinner twine might have already had enough time to break down. So I guess we just sort of plowed right through one of the feeding zones we established out here on the side. So I guess just the reason I brought the whole topic up of having multiple feeding zones and wanting the worms to move about was, or maybe I was going at it the other way. Maybe that was my point, was that I I created multiple feeding zones because I didn't want the worms huddling in the same place all the time. I wanted them all over the place. So, and not only that, but like last time we fed in the middle, which always gets the feeding, and then these two outer edges, which was what I showed on that little diagram, but then we would always switch. So that's the reason I wanted to know where I fed last time, so that this time we could alternate and feed along these edges. So that to me seemed like a good way to really get worms moving all over the place. So I kind of went at this a little bit in a disorderly way, but I was really liking the way we were able to just now be able to, we're no longer limited to just that hole that we sort of pre-made for ourselves. Now we can excavate in different locations carefully, because the material does still hold together quite a bit, but not like it did when it was all brand new. Going back to when the system was brand new, I used cardboard as well to build the system. So in addition to the twine, I expected the twine to be a sort of a slow breakdown material, so I didn't want to build their environment just out of stuff that was not going to start into the breakdown process pretty quickly. So I wanted to also include some softer, quicker type bedding, so the the egg carton type of cardboard is what I used to complement the twine. But I would have to guess that that stuff was probably consumed way in the beginning, soon after it was put in here. So I see a banana peel. I don't even know if I saw any other leftovers. I mean, to find a banana peel over in that edge where we last fed, it's fair to expect that the other edge probably had one too, but I'll admit I was kind of just gabbing and not paying that much attention, so it's possible that I just breezed right by a banana peel on the other side. So, all right, I just feel like I've got a lot of tilling up and stirring around to make up for over all this time, since it was only the last check-in when we realized we could even do that at all. So, and it is so nice blending in all that top cover leafy matter too, you got to admit. But I think it's time to proceed with dropping in their feeding. I'm just out of curiosity. I'm wondering if I was all for following what we'd been doing in the past, by continuing to move their feedings around to keep them moving, but at this point it almost seems unnecessary. If this is just going to start behaving like any other bin, or I could just place the foods down the middle and the worms will whatever come in and get the food and then retreat out to the edges if that's where they want to go to hang out, then maybe we just go back to feeding like we would any other system. Well, whatever. We started into something, and maybe we'll just keep to it. So I think today's feeding will just be done the way I expected it to be, which would be to place one of our feeding spots down the middle, almost because it was just what we did anyway. Almost like keeping to a little tradition. And look at all these banana peels. Yay! Yeah, the banana peels, you could tell they're a popular item. There's worms all over those things. But the outer portion of it takes a little while. If it was just like an entire banana, they'd be gobbling it up, all the sweet insides of it. But when it comes to the outer peel, that's a little bit tougher material. It takes them a little more time to break down, but it all eventually goes. So check this out. I've dressed up my prepared bedding. Not so much by design, just by me thinking to myself, hey, what do I do with all this sawdust from cutting a few pieces of wood? And I figured, you know what? I heard that worms really like wood. And I think that's true. I don't think that's just a myth. So I figured, let's treat these little guys to some sawdust. I figured by being blended into my prepared bedding, it would just sort of get around. And let's see here, this frozen mound of radish leaves. I received this from my mom a couple days ago, and she had already placed it in her freezer, and then I made the mistake of just bringing it home, leaving it on the counter, and it started to thaw. So it almost turned into like just a bag full of like fluid radish leaves. So I got it into the freezer quickly, and then I also tried to take it apart a little bit, like taking this big frozen wad of fluid and bust it up a little bit so that it's smaller little individual pieces that can break apart more readily. So that's what we're seeing there. And you know what? I almost forgot. We've already taken care of the feeding down the middle. But number one, I wanted to use some napkins. I've got two of them, so we'll throw one down into each of the feeding zones. And I guess at this point, I'm wondering if we even need more bedding. Perhaps I'll save some of that fancy sawdust prepared bedding for some other bins. At least these guys got a little taste of it. So throw some coffee. And somebody had a really good idea in the comment last time, because they saw me struggling since I had not made myself a note to let me know where I had last fed. I was trying to, figured where I had last fed by poking around, looking around. And then somebody made this really great suggestion. Why don't I leave a feeding zone indicator for myself? So I think I'm going to do exactly that. And I'm not going to leave just one, but in this case, I think we're going to leave 3, which coincides with the number of individual feeding spots we're putting down. And since I've got 3 coffee filters, the old existing feeding zone indicator can just get recycled as supplementary bedding to accompany the feeding out here. And it almost seems to me like we might have placed even more food out here into the edge than what the middle got. It's hard to say. But whatever it is that we're doing in here, it seems to be working as far as creating an environment that the worms appear to enjoy. So I'm inclined to stick to what we've been doing, even if it's not necessary anymore, to kind of prompt the worms to travel about and explore the entire system if they're kind of doing that already on their own anyway. Maybe this just starts to transform into more of an everyday type system. And man, oh man, the system seems to be approaching capacity. This thing is really close to the rim. Oops. Excuse me. Just wanted to step away because it seemed to me like perhaps a little coating of leafy matter out here on the top. My leaf vac occasionally pulls up a feather and a stick. The sticks I'll take out. The feather I assume will go. So I think we'll just leave it. But yeah, I don't want to go too overboard here. I'm starting to get this feeling like I'm a little bit cramped for space already. I didn't get that direct feeling today, but I just feel like I got the potential to, you know, get to that point if I'm not careful. So I'm going to kind of start thinking about future feedings as possibly not getting so much bedding, because I guess my main reason for wanting to be really generous with the bedding in here was because I wasn't sure about the twine. You know, I didn't know if the twine would really be something that they could also use as sort of a feeding material, if the stuff would even be breaking down to the point where they can make use of it. So I wanted to I just wanted to make sure we're giving them a good environment that's something that they can utilize and not just be surrounded by material that they can't really work on. So that looks pretty good right there. And back on can come our cover. You can see I stranded a number of little worms out here. This is the mixed batch of worms, and some of these really thin, darker color worms look to me like the Indian blue worms. Some of these other worms on here, they just look like an eyelash or something. They're so tiny. Seems like the little worms like coming up to hang out on the plastic. So that's it for our check-in with the mixed red worms today. Everything seems so nice in here. Very fun system to check in on, or at least I think so. Hopefully you agree. But that's it for the video, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always really appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's very much appreciated as well. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye now.